We're in the fifth chapter of Gittin, of the Tractate of Divorce. We're in the middle of a series of discussions about tikkun olam, how we can improve the world. Again, really interesting that these discussions all come in the middle of the Tractate of Divorce. Some of the situations we've been looking at relate more or less to situations of, well, divorce or slavery, or talked about ownership of the land of Israel. But now we are going to really take a left turn and go into classic questions of financial law. So we're going to get into finance. We're still in the world of tikkun olam, but we're going to get into finance. So the fifth chapter begins. Hanizikin shamin lahem idit. Damages or damages for injury, torts, are paid out of the best quality. Actually, we have a verse for it in the Torah in Mishpatim. Meitav karmehu. He refers to the best part of his kerem. In the case of damage, you pay out of the best part of the best part of the vineyard. That's for damages. Maybe there's a desire on the part of the rabbis to make sure that people don't create damage. In other words, you don't let your ox run around and gore somebody. There's a dispute in the Gemara, by the way. Is this the best part of the claimant's field or the defendant's field? We're not sure. But the principle is clear that the rabbis do not want to dissuade torts, damages, accidental damages, negligent damages. So payment is made out of the best quality produce or best quality land. Uvalichog ba beinonit, ordinary creditors from medium quality. We don't want to dissuade people from lending money. Again, we can see the theme of tikkun olam running through here. So we don't want to dissuade people from lending money. So they need to be paid out from some reasonable quality. And then the Mishnah goes on, Uketubat isha ba ziburit. And a wife's ketubah is paid out of the worst quality. Somehow we don't seem to be anxious that the wife is not going to be paid. Really interesting. Or that she won't get married because she's anxious about the validity of the ketubah. So the ketubah is paid out of the worst quality. Rabbi Meir will disagree, by the way. The halakha doesn't go according to Rabbi Meir, but his voice is recorded. His voice is recorded. He's, of course, the husband of Bruria, so his wife is a Talmid Chacham. Rabbi Meir Omer, Af ktubat isha ba beinonid. Rabbi Meir says also the ketubah is paid out of medium quality. And we're going to go on and just explain these in a little bit more detail. All this type of debt collection or damages collection only refers to unmortgaged property. Ein nifra'in min nechasim meshubadim. Makom sheyesh nechasim b'nei chorem. We don't collect these debts from mortgaged property if there is free property available, if there's unmortgaged property available. And again, we can see the issues of tikkun olam coming through. In halakha, mortgaged property retains its mortgage even if it's sold. So when you buy land, you need to be really careful there's no mortgage on the land, because if there is a mortgage, the lender, if he needs to possess the debt and isn't paid, can possess your land even though you've bought it. And then you've just got an unsecured claim on this guy who sold you the land, but clearly didn't tell you he's selling you mortgaged land. So in general, we want to dissuade people from collecting from mortgaged land for unsecured debt. So the Mishnah says, look, if there's free land, we collect from it. Afilu hen haziburit, even if it's the lowest quality. All these quality distinctions don't apply don't apply if we're faced with unmortgaged and mortgaged assets. And as far as collecting debts from orphans are concerned, we only collect from the lowest quality. So if some guy dies and his estate obviously inherits the assets but also the liabilities, we're only going to collect from the orphans from the lowest quality. And again, we can see something of tikkun olam running through here, even though this Mishnah and the previous one don't actually mention the words tikkun olam. And then the Mishnah rules: Ein motzein l'ochelet haperot, v'lishvach hakakot, v'limzon ha'isha, v'labanot min chasim shuadim mipnei tikkun ha'olam. Finally, we are going to mention tikkun olam. There are situations where we don't collect because of tikkun olam. We don't collect from mortgage property for produce consumed. The meaning of this is really not quite clear in the Mishnah. The Gemara seems to interpret it as, for example, maybe someone who took a field unlawfully, and then, okay, the field is returned, but he's consumed produce from the field in the meantime. So we need to make a claim for the produce. This is the way the Rambam reads the Mishnah. But of course, the produce is hard to value. How do we know how much he ate? Well, we don't. That seems to be why we're not going to go after mortgage property. We don't know how much he ate. Maybe its money was spent improving the property. Again, we don't. It's hard to tell how much was spent. Ve'limzon ha'isha ve'labanot and for the maintenance of a widow and daughters. A widow and her daughters can take money out of their estate for their maintenance. But again, the amount that is taken out is not necessarily clear. So the Mishnah rules mipnei tikkun ha'olam, because of tikkun olam, we're not going to levy a charge on mortgaged assets, on assets which are held for another creditor, for these rather unmeasurable things. And similarly, hamotzi metzia lo yishava. Sorry, hamotzei metzia lo yishava. Someone who brings up a found object. So you find an object, you hand it into its owner. Maybe the owner's not certain that you've completely returned it or completely returned all of it. Can he make you swear an oath that you really did return it? The Mishnah says, Lo yishava, mipnei tikkun ha'olam. The finder can't make you swear an oath because of tikkun olam. We don't want to discourage people from handing in lost property. Generally, by the way, the Mishnah understands that people don't like swearing an oath. It's an uncomfortable thing to swear an oath. It's a big thing. If you know that you might have to swear an oath after you hand in lost property, first thing you might think is, well, maybe better not. Maybe better not. And of course, the rabbis want to encourage handing in lost property. So, mipnei tikkun ha'olam, because of tikkun olam, we are lo yishava. We are not going to make the person who handed it in swear an oath.